Really pleased, of course, with the victory. I've got to say, for everyone in the locker room, it's been overshadowed by nasty injury to Michael Reid. But I thought from the outset, we took control of the game. Maybe understandably so, with a man advantage for lion's share of that first period. The one big question at half-time was, were we doing enough to create, find those opportunities to get efforts on goal and really break the deadlock? And that question was answered in the second half. Once we'd got our noses in front, I felt as though there were plenty of goals to be had, and that really was borne out in the way that the game ended up. So very, very pleased. As I said, just disappointed with the injury to Michael.
Have you ever faced a situation like that before, and what'd you really do to kind of get the guys out of their shell-shockedness?
Strangely enough, I've been in that situation before myself personally. I've been that player on the field who injured badly. Honestly, I've not been involved where I've seen an injury that bad. I think honestly it's, without knowing exactly what's happened, you know, we're waiting for an assessment on Michael and the full scope of the injury. But I think just a visual of somebody's foot being in an abnormal position can be very emotionally disturbing for the players that are out there, and that was the difficulty when they came into a tight huddle before we restarted. Some of the guys had obviously seen and been close to the action and what had happened, and you have to suspect that all of those guys are thinking that, you know, we've got to continue in this game now. That type of injury could happen to me. The reality is, it does happen. Fortunately, it just doesn't happen very often, and I did think that the mentality of the group was far better in the second half, and maybe the break was needed, just to put a little moment in time between what had happened and of course where we were going to move on to.
Do you think the spark clearly came whenever you made the shift to making the 3-5-2, shifting Trivet back, putting Rapapa at the top? Is that really something that you're kind of gung-ho about, trying to get more offense going in that second half? Because the possession had been there, just the chances had not been there.
It had been minimal, yeah. The key element to that was trying to galvanise a better attacking threat with Lebo and Alan Wynne underneath those two strikers as well. We had a shape that we've not really played before, and with two brand new centre backs playing as part of a three-man back line and just Bolu screening that. Honestly, I felt as though we had enough good quality players, enough ability in that group to make a difference. But it certainly was about finding a spark and taking advantage of it.
The Lasso and Oxford pairing is really starting to pay dividends right now. Why do you think they've gelled so well and made such an excellent duo in the back?
They're good players. Simple as that. You know, if you've got well-schooled and capable individuals, then it makes the world that you're working in a hell of a lot easier. I think the pair of them have played at a good level. They've both been successful. And Jimmy had a very, very good season at Reno. They had a good run in the playoffs, and on the back of that, got his MLS contract. Forest, we know full well. We played against them 4 times last year. They did a wonderful job as a team to win the Eastern Conference. But generally, I think if you've got characters like that, the biggest issue can sometimes be just the relationship between them, a bit of understanding, but there's good balance there. Forrest is a naturally left-footed guy. Jim is naturally right-footed. They've slotted in well together, and it's amazing what clean sheets can do. You know, they're defenders who want to try and consistently show their worth. was a tad disappointed with a penalty. I don't know whether that was a rash challenge on Forest's part or maybe a little bit of a poor decision from the referee, but nonetheless, I'm pleased that we've kept our goal intact and we move forward.
Ken Tribbett got a goal tonight. I mean, he's been kind of getting his way back into the rotation. What do you make of his mentality to be able to come in, play, at least for the first half, a little bit out of position and still be able to contribute?
Ken is an intelligent and very adaptable soccer player. There's no doubt about it. I think he's himself been disappointed and frustrated, but that's born mostly out of being injured and out of the team for a prolonged period of time. He's seen two talented defenders come in and undoubtedly felt the effects of that, but I think he slotted into that midfield brilliantly. He's a far more efficient soccer player than I think most give him credit for. I think on top of all of those things, he's just a terrific guy. He's got a great attitude. He's a hard-working player, and whatever opportunity he's thrown at Kenny, I think he's that type of guy that will take it. We have a small group anyway, and a lot of those guys are starting to see the field again, and with 3 games in a week, that's always going to be a stretch for any group.
Any more questions?
4 in a row now. So what do you think the team needs to do to really continue this momentum that you've got rolling right now? Really, not necessarily become complacent.
Well, you've hit the nail on the head there. I think complacency can be the killer in any group. You feel as though that the game can be won before you stepped on the field and forget that there are plenty of stages that you need to go through to make that happen. I think the challenge at the weekend is a very different one to these first 2 games, and it always is at the end of a difficult week. Fatigue sets in with certain guys. Of course, it's great to be winning and that confidence is there in the group, but you've got to balance that out with fresh legs, guys that are going to get after the game rather than just let the game come to them. And at the weekend, we've got a young and creative Bethlehem group. We've seen what they're capable of at their place. They've had a conveyor belt of fantastic young players come through that system, and I think this group is a similar group. They've got 3, 4, 5 players that are capable of moving on to the first team, and they're very, very capable. What they will do, I'm sure, is see the schedule that we've had. They've not played since last Thursday, and I would imagine they'll come here and want to throw a lot of youthful energy at the game, so we have to be ready for that.